So, given this general view of life, how should we regard death? So again, we've moved to the key paragraph for us, which is the bottom of page 1, third paragraph. He says, accustom yourself to believe that death is nothing to us. For good and evil imply awareness, and death is the privation of all awareness. So, how should we regard something? Well, perhaps not thinking about what it is in itself, but what it is to us. Death is nothing to us. It should be nothing to us. It is neither good nor evil because we don't experience it. For something to be good or evil for us, for us to experience it as good or evil, the first condition is that we must be aware of it. If we're not aware of it, then it's neither good nor evil to us. It's nothing to us. So what's the point of worrying about it, I guess? He continues, therefore, a right understanding that death is nothing to us makes the mortality of life enjoyable. And that's an interesting turn of phrase, makes the mortality of life enjoyable. Not by adding to life an unlimited time, but by taking away the yearning after immortality. That is, once we become aware of what death is, which is nothing to us, that makes life more enjoyable. That is, that there's nothing to fear in death. There's nothing fearful about mortality, and perhaps makes us enjoy our mortality, our limitedness, our finitude, and takes away our yearning after immortality. Because why do we yearn after immortality? I guess because we fear mortality. Why do we want to live forever? Because we never want to experience death. But isn't Epicurus saying we never do experience death, strictly speaking? He continues, for life has no terror. Being alive is not scary. For those who thoroughly apprehend that there are no terrors for them in ceasing to live. Foolish, therefore, is the person who says that he fears death, not because it will pain when it comes, but because it pains in the prospect. It's hard to interpret there, especially in translation. It's a little bit vague, but what do we fear? We fear things that are painful and that make us unhappy in experiencing them. So if it would be quite rational and natural to fear the pains of death, to fear a mortal illness that brought along with it physical or mental suffering. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about death. We're not talking about the part of life that leads up to death. So what do we actually fear? What is in itself fearful in the sense that we will experience it as something painful? Perhaps an illness or physical pain, something like that, but not death, which is, strictly speaking, the end of life. And so the end of life brings with it the end of all awareness. So to fear in the prospect, to have just fear of death itself as something looming in the future is irrational. There's no basis for it. Whatever causes no annoyance, he continues, when it is present, causes only a groundless pain in the expectation. That is, it would be groundless to fear in expectation something which brings with it no pain. Death, therefore, the most awful of evils, is nothing to us, seeing that when we are, death is not come, and when death has come, we are not. There is the trick. When we are, that is, when we exist, when we're alive, death is not. Okay, so as long as you're alive, death has not come. And when death has come, we are not. That is, that it's not something that's possible to experience, because death is a negation of life. Life is awareness and perception and pleasure and pain and experiencing things as good and evil. But once that awareness is taken away, once that ceases in death, we don't experience anything. So there's an incompatibility between being alive and death, which is such that we never actually experience death. It is nothing then, either to the living or to the dead. For with the living it is not, that is, death is not. and the dead exist no longer. So there's the basic idea, that is, the Epicurean view of death is that death is nothing. And why is it nothing? Because it's not a possible experience for a living being. Now, what exactly death is, biologically, even on a grander spiritual plane, well, who knows? It's a metaphysical question, in the sense of that a metaphysical question is a question about something that we cannot possibly experience, so there's no definite answer. But we can, Epicurus says, definitely state that death is not something that we will experience. It is something that will happen to us, in the sense that, of course, we're mortal, and of course our lives come to an end. And we have all sorts of pleasurable and painful and perhaps neutral experiences leading up to that limit and end. But those are all part of life, and it's certainly rational to fear things that you know are painful, that will make you unhappy. But there's no use making yourself unhappy unnecessarily in fearing things groundlessly. He continues, but in the world at one time people shunned death as the greatest of all evils, and at another time choose it as a respite from the evils in life. The wise person does not deprecate life, nor does he fear the cessation of life. The thought of life is no offense to him, nor is cessation of life regarded as an evil. And even as people choose of food not merely and simply the larger portion, but the more pleasant, so the wise seek to enjoy the time which is most pleasant, and not merely that which is longest. Just pretty profound, actually. That is, living longer is not necessarily better. Enjoying what is possible for us to enjoy as we live is the point, not to live forever, not even to live longer. Which is the better meal? The one that's really delicious and well prepared and satisfying, but small portions, or huge portions of horrible food, like at the $5, $10 buffet. I mean, great. I get to eat all the disgusting Jell-O and really greasy fried chicken, but I'd rather have something good, even if it was limited. So there you have it. Death is nothing to us. For it to be something, we would have to experience it, but we don't experience it. We experience life, not death. When death occurs, we are not. That's the logical implication. If death is, we are not. And the converse, I guess you'd call it, if we are, death is not. So what are we really worried about? Why should we make ourselves miserable, or even waste a moment in worried anxiety over something that we'll never experience? So there we have our first view of death, the Epicurean view of death. That is, that death is nothing. It's nothing to us. It can't be experienced. So how should we approach it? Don't worry about it. Concentrate on what you can affect. Concentrate on what you do have control over. And worry about those things, because you want to make your life better, and you want to make yourself happier, and you want to live a good life and fill it with the kind of pleasures that will constitute a good life.